Now, 5:30.
Yes.
You say you called, there's no record of it. What did you do next? Describe to me what you did.
So on the phone call that I received back to say they were unable to get hold of the driver, my next question was, can you get me a taxi here immediately? Their response was, again, we will call you back and see how soon we can get somebody there. At that point, I decided to take things into my own hands. They let me down once, so I decided to call my friend and to try and get my own way to the airport because it was
You telephoned your friend?
Yes. I then walked from my friend's address to the nearest taxi rank where I hoped there might be another taxi firm that could take me. There was fortunately one taxi there, which ironically, he did the journey for me and didn't charge me because he felt so badly about the service that this other company had provided.
Well, he may or may not have done.
Well,
but the answer is, do you know whether that's true or not?
It was one of our taxis.
Yeah, I know, and he felt awful about the fact that A, he couldn't take me, and B, didn't charge me for the fare. And you know, because he invoiced you as a company for that journey.
Did he do that out of interest?
Yes, the company did reimburse him.
Understood. Now, you've a limited counterclaim. How much is it for, please, madam?
It's for £25.
Now, what are you suing Brad for £25 for?
The unpaid taxi journey from Rochford Station to South Church and then on to Lee, which we reimbursed the driver.
The bit where he found the driver at the rank, told the driver what happened, and the driver took him to his house, then his friend. That £25?
Correct.
You, in fact, paid that driver back?
We reimbursed the driver, yes.
Understood. Why is that Brad's fault?
Nobody does a taxi journey without paying.
Well, the guy offered.
What?
Nobody does it. In other words, you suggest...
It's a criminal offence.
It's called bilking. I want to be clear, Brad, for the avoidance of any doubt whatsoever, I do not believe that you have come close to committing any sort of criminal offence whatsoever. But you'd accept, would you not, that you're liable for any offers that a driver makes on your behalf?
Not without the driver confirming with the company that it's OK first.
Ah, in which case, who should you take it up with?
The driver.
Absolutely.
OK.
Brad, the first issue in this case is whether or not there was a breach of contract. And that's easy to deal with. There was. You booked a cab, you say, for 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, according to Katie's evidence, it was 5:30 in the morning. That is what she has stuck to throughout her submissions. And let me say, I'm happy to find it was 5:30 in the morning. It doesn't necessarily matter. However, what matters is that we now know, because you have never denied it whatsoever, that there was a mistake getting in touch with the relevant taxi driver, and consequently, because of that inadvertent mistake, he didn't show up and he didn't get the job reference. He woke up at 8:30. No good for you. Now, sir, at that time, it's a breach of contract. And so, ordinarily, if that had been the start and the end of the matter, you'd have been liable. Straightforward. However, I now need to ask myself the question, if they are in breach of contract, what you did and the extent to which you acted in a reasonable fashion. Because it's not enough to say we should have supplied a taxi and didn't. You have to behave in a way which prevents them and yourself from experiencing any loss. The first thing you did, you claim the taxi was booked for 5. You tell me that you waited for half an hour. Bearing in mind how important this was, getting to an airport, it is very, very close to being extremely unreasonable for you to wait all that time before making alternative arrangements. The difficulty with this case, madam, is you don't tell me 5 o'clock, you tell me 5:30. So I have to take your account of it, not his. But I'm also confident that Brad wouldn't have left the house unless he'd been given a solid indication that there was no taxi coming. It would be very, very odd indeed if he did that. And it seems to me that on balance, bearing in mind this was really very early in the morning, there were no other taxis that could have serviced the job, you didn't have friends or family that could have collected you. In your mind and objectively, by the narrowest margin, what you did was not sensible, but not entirely unreasonable. And so consequently, the fact that you ended up at the airport late flowed from, in law, this company's inadvertent and unfortunate breach of contract. And so to that extent, you are liable. But they are not liable for £1,000. They can only be liable for what flows from and what they could reasonably foresee would have flowed from the fact that the taxi driver failed to get the right time. You are not entitled to claim for the transport to see your friend at the other side. The fact that he or she or they were unable to pick you up is their problem. They couldn't have foreseen your arrangements at the other side of the journey. What's more, the fact that you didn't have a good time because you arrived late also wasn't necessarily their fault. What is, however, foreseeable was the cost of the flight, which was £195.21. And as a matter of law, you wouldn't have had to pay this had the taxi driver got the right time in the first place, and also had you logged the original job at 5 a.m. as opposed to 5:30. For that reason, I'm satisfied there was a breach of contract. I'm satisfied that you behaved in a way which was not by any stretch of the imagination entirely sensible, but just about reasonable. But I'm only satisfied that your claim warrants a limited amount of compensation to the tune of £195.21. That is the award of the court. Thank you very much.
Vicky?
Brad won part of his case and was awarded just £195.21 of his original claim. Defendant Katie's counterclaim was dismissed.
Don't be stupid. Stay and watch the best Judge Rinder moments. And I'm talking. Understood? Don't be a moron. Subscribe to Judge Rinder YouTube channel. Right now. That's an order.